Imagine opening up a massive database or, a GitHub repository, but instead of clicking through a boring, endless list of gray folders, you are dropped directly onto the bridge of a spaceship from the expanse. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring the Plantacerium project, specifically this visualization they call the Stellar Nexus Archive.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just this massive paradigm shift in how we look at information. We're examining how a developer took 26 totally standard GitHub repositories and completely abandoned the traditional flat text layout.
Right.
Instead, they've transformed that raw data into a fully interactive 3D celestial constellation.
Okay, let's unpack this because think about your own computer desktop right now. It's probably just a flat screen filled with, yellow folder icons.
Oh, definitely.
This project asks, what happens when you turn those folders into procedurally generated DNA double helixes, just floating in a 360-degree planetary nexus?
What's fascinating here is the core metaphor driving that choice. They are visualizing software as literal genetic code. Every single one of those 26 repositories is represented as a distinct DNA strand.
Wait, really? Like a glowing DNA strand?
Yeah, exactly. And to make sure you can actually tell them apart, each strand has a unique chromatic frequency.
So with 26 distinct color variations, I'm assuming they aren't just randomly throwing paint at a virtual wall, right? Like, there has to be a structural logic to the color palette so it doesn't just look like static.
Precisely. They use something called the golden angle to calculate those spectral signatures.
This golden angle.
Yeah, it's a mathematically precise distribution found in nature, like the way a sunflower arranges its seeds. It guarantees that the colors are spread out dynamically without clashing.
Oh, wow.
So it gives the whole celestial array this incredibly organic, yet perfectly structured geometry.
Okay, well, I have to push back here for a second because visually, stunning. But functionally, I'm a bit skeptical. Does rendering a code repository as a glowing DNA strand actually help you understand the software? Or is this massive mathematically perfect circular geometry just like an artistic flex?
I get that. It's very easy to assume it's just a high-end video game set piece. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, this environment actually houses a real-world, functional user interface. It's built on Three.js and Tailwind CSS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's not just a digital sculpture,
Yeah.
It's live telemetry.
See, telemetry is great in theory, but floating text in 3D space is notoriously hard to read. A cinematic background usually just swallows up the data. How are they making this actually usable and not just a messy sci-fi movie prop?
That's where the specific rendering tech comes in. They layer a custom glass morphism display over this massive 3D space. They call it the Hologlass Panel 3.0. Essentially, menus that look like frosted glass. This lets you clearly read the real-time project metadata without completely blocking out the glowing galaxy floating behind it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Plus, the rendering engine dynamically adjusts the deep space background, blurring it slightly based on your camera depth so the text always pops.
Okay, so it keeps the aesthetic without sacrificing legibility. And that background isn't just a static image, right?
Not at all. There's a volumetric nebula, some subtle chromatic aberration for that gritty sci-fi feel, and this feature they call a stellar dust bloom.
A stellar dust bloom.
Yeah, the dust bloom is one of the smartest functional elements. It's a field of 25,000 glowing spherical particles floating in the space using additive blending.
Wow, that is a lot of particles.
It is, but they don't just use them to look pretty. They represent raw data activity. Think of it like a heat map.
Oh, I see.
The brighter and more active the dust bloom is around a specific DNA strand, the more active that code repository is.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, though, the navigation. Because you aren't just scrolling down a page anymore. You have these deep space zoom camera capabilities.
Yeah.
You are physically piloting a drone through your own source code.
It completely changes your spatial relationship with the information.
Hmm.
You develop a geographic memory of where your data lives. The Plantacerium project proves that archiving data doesn't have to mean filing it away in a digital drawer.
Exactly. It turns an archive into a living, breathing ecosystem. And it really does make looking at standard file folders feel a bit disappointing now.
It really does.
But it leaves you with a pretty wild thought to chew on. If every piece of software has its own unique genetic footprint and visual frequency, what would the digital genome of our entire internet look like if it were rendered out in this celestial nexus?